Good evening, chairpersons, distinguished delegates, academic scientists, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I must thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. My topic for the day, need for reorienting climate change, debate in the Himalayan and balancing the approach. My previous speaker, Dr. Nandi, has already told and briefed you about the Himalayas. I need not tell much. The only thing I would stress is that it's a very rugged terrain and also known as the third pole. In the morning also, we have been listening about the Himalaya storage of large volumes of fresh water to the for the people of Asia, and a major source of 10 rivers. You may slightly find variation 9 told by it's the same, missed 1 or 2. And the important part is the data deficient region, as it lacks consistent and long-term data which help in identifying the changes and to develop approaches with the impact in relation to climate change. So we talk about the Indian Himalaya region, and it is covering 12 states, 10 fully and 2 partly, 1 district of West Bengal and 2 districts of Assam. And we generally talk about the Indian Himalayan region. But on the other hand, the other groups, particularly the EC mode and the other countries, they talk about Hindu Kush, which comprises 8 nations. Already informed by Dr. Mandirata, it has a long altitude, it's a long area coverage. It is about 5.533 kilometer square, covering length of 2,500, and so many biosphere reserves, 7 biosphere reserves, 28 national parks, so many wildlife sanctuaries, and more than 41% of the geographical area is under the good forest cover. Its flora is rich, hotspot, biological hotspot with so many species, more than 8,000 species of angiosperms, gymnosperms, medicinal plants, and so many important tree species, and it has a diverse traditional resource use in the entire region. And let's talk about the Hindu Kush Himalaya, which EC mode is proponing, and it has a much larger area of coverage with 8 countries and 10 major sources of rivers and downstream river basins, and it covers it helps 1.3 billion people downstream, and more than 3 billion people are benefit through the rivers. See, the area extends 3,500 meters all across the Myanmar in the east to the Afghanistan, and with the area of 4.2 million, much larger area than the Indian Himalayan region, and similar to the other Himalayan region. I mean, it's the same topography, but a much larger area. And same that the Hindu Kush Himalaya also shows consistent trends in the overall warming over the past 100 years. See, if we look at the area of the different areas of the different countries under the Hindu Kush Himalaya, that for India, 404,000 square kilometers fall under the Hindu Kush Himalaya, and the total is 4.2 million square kilometer. And this table shows the various grassland, the forest cover, the population, agricultural land, and the protected area in these regions. And you'll see that most of the region is this is about 40%, 50% of the area is under grassland. On the other hand, the Indian Himalayan region, it is quite less. The grasslands are less, but we have more of forests. But on the other hand, the Hindu Kush Himalaya, it has more of grassland and less of forest. So it represents more of the grassland scenario than the Indian Himalayan region. So this calls for slight thinking about the ecosystem, the biomes present in the Hindu Kush Himalaya, which is mainly dominated by the grasslands. So what's happening? The climate change impacts on the IHR. We all know that the climate change is happening, and there is evidence of climate change over the last 100 years. And temperature in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region has been projected to increase by 1 to 2 degrees in general, and by 4 to 5 degrees in the higher altitude regions. It has been projected, it is going to happen by 2050. And if we agreed with the Paris 2015 agreement that even if there is a 1.5 degree rise, and the temperature in the Hindu Kush Himalaya would be expected to be 2 to 3 times higher. So since most of the studies in the Hindu Kush Himalaya have been centered there and is largely dominated by the grasslands, so particularly of the Tibetan plateau, so information may not reflect the Indian Himalayan scenario. So extensive investigations in the IHR is needed, and it is largely dominated by forests. So it is very important that we have some studies and deeper studies in the entire IHR to get a clearer picture of the Indian Himalayan scenario. So if we just see, I have given for a comparison, the Hindu Kush Himalaya, the forest area is this much, and the grasslands is quite high. And this is largely because it is reflected on the China part of the Tibetan plateau, and agricultural land is less. And in the Tibetan plateau, which is just adjacent to the Himalaya, the area is 2.5 million square kilometer, much higher, and the grassland is, this is 1.5 million square kilometer. On the other hand, the grasslands here are less. The forest area is 41%, it's quite high. So we should have a better or clearer picture of the Indian Himalaya for better understanding of the climate change projection scenarios. Although a lot of studies have been initiated over the past few decades in the Indian Himalayan region, but I'm sure some more studies and more wide studies are definitely needed. So, as a part of the DST funded NMC project, which Dr. Mandiratta has told in my previous lecture, that we at G.B. Pant Institute of Himalayan Environment and Development is working on the forest resources and plant biodiversity. We are looking at various aspects, particularly to develop a coherent database, which will help in creating a database for the entire Himalayan region for the forest resources and plant biodiversity. And we'd also like to monitor the forest resources over a long term in relation to changing climate, and also validate the climate models and sensitization and capacity building towards climate change adaptation and mitigation. So this is how the picture of our forests look like. So this is the geographical area of all the Himalayan states, and showing that various forests and also the changes. You need not look into the detail. So this is the very much important. This is the total forest area, and this is the total geographical area of this region. And this is about, just to tell you, this is about 41% of the IHR. And this is the change in forest cover. You can see that the forest cover is changing due to various reasons, maybe climate change, anthropogenic pressures, and over the period 2001 to 2015, it has increased in certain cases, but it has also decreased in some states. This shows the yellow one shows the data pertaining to 2015, and the green is, some changes. Forest cover has increased in J&K, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Meghalaya, and Tripura, while it has decreased in some other states. And this is how the dense forest cover looks like, but unfortunately the dense cover forests have changed in certain states like in Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Jammu and Kashmir, and Himachal Pradesh. So this is relevant, and care should be taken that such incidents do not happen, maybe because of large-scale felling of trees and maybe some replantation work. Older trees were felled. This is the threat status, because some of the states are very rich in biodiversity, and you can see that some of the states are showing important number of threatened species, what is the status, and these are being monitored regularly to have the data on the threatened status of the IHR state. And this is the threatened status of plants, particularly how many plants have gone down based on the criteria, how many are extinct, how many are endangered. So this will help, and we are collecting data regularly. And we, in our project work, we have initiated long-term monitoring sites. This will help in obtaining data for various geographical locations, some in the Western Himalaya and also in the Tista Valley in Eastern Himalaya, and different altitudinal ranges from 900 meters to 3,800 meters. So these are the various monitoring sites which we have done. We have also we have done established sites in the alpine ranges, and these are the sites, and these are some of the model-based work which I have quoted, which you might have heard in the morning from various persons. There's our work from Dr. Gupta et al. And Ravindranth's group, how the climate change scenario would be under RCP 4.5 and 8.5 climate change scenarios by 2080. So these are some of the literature information, and these are some of the model-based studies, and these are some of the activities which we are doing under the NMC Task Force 3. And the last but not the least, so this is about the President's opening speech at Bonn, that we must not fail our people. The year ahead, we must work hard to keep the Paris Agreement to work and support for climate action. So with this, I end, and I acknowledge my colleagues and the people of the funding from DST and the Ministry of Environment and Forest for Facilitation, and thank you very much for patience here.